Hi, my name is Kelly Wippenmeyer, and this is a demo lecture for your MS courses in IT and project management. This demo is particularly on project management. I've been teaching it, oh goodness, for quite some time now. I'm going to be teaching at Lindenwood University in the fall, and I also teach PMP prep classes. So without further ado, we're going to talk about closing the project. Some of the topics we're going to talk about is formulating project closeout, closing out the project, and then also closing out the procurements. When we talk about formulating project closeout, there are multiple characteristics of closing. So this is actually when risk is the lowest because all the work is complete at this point. So that means all the money's been spent, all the actions have been taken. So therefore the risk is the lowest because you don't have to, there's not any question about what we're going to be doing with the money or what's going to be occurring with the money at this point. You already know what's going to be spent. You already know if you are on time or not with your project. So that is why risk is the lowest. The second thing is that you have the highest likelihood for completion at project closeout, which kind of seems like a no-brainer. But sometimes when you get right to closeout, you can still be at risk of not completing your project. So, and that's mostly due to stakeholder non-acceptance. So it's really important during the planning phase to make sure that your stakeholders accept. The project manager has the most influence during the closing phase, and this is because the project manager is the one responsible for managing all the meetings, making sure all of the lessons learned documents are completed, making sure all the work orders are closed out. The stakeholders have very little influence because there's really nothing else for them to speak to at this point. They are already done. They've already explained what they wanted to do in planning. It was executed on. At this point, the only thing the stakeholders have left to do is accept. And obviously, closeout is where you have the lowest cost as well, because your costs are already expended. All right, moving on to project endings. Projects come to an end for several reasons. Some of those are that it's been successfully completed, it's been canceled or killed, or sometimes they involve into operations. So there are 4 actual formal types of project endings. Addition, this is when they become their own ongoing business unit. We had an example of this where I work, where we had a team of people who are flying drones, and it actually became its own program and went from a project to a full-scale program that is run just like daily maintenance. The next one is starvation. This is where you're left with an unfinished project because there's a loss of priority. It gets a reduced order, a resource quits. Starvation is typically due to the fact that there is no more demand for your project. Integration happens when there are projects that have a higher priority and the resources have to be redistributed back into the business. And then extinction, even though the dinosaurs did not like this word, we like this word in PM. It means that the project is actually completed successfully. So we are excited about extinction. So when we're talking about closing out the project, there's a few things that we do as project managers. We gather records, we share information to make sure that other teams understand what we did good and maybe what we could have improved upon. And then we also analyze project effectiveness. We take the project management plan, any accepted deliverables, and any organizational process assets such as templates that we may have to fill out for closeout, lessons learned documents. We take all these inputs and then we look to our experts, such as SMEs. SMEs can assist in the assurance that the processes perform according to the organization's project management standards. We also look at analytical techniques such as regression analysis and trend analysis during this time frame to determine if our predictions and forecasts were accurate throughout the project. And then obviously we have some meetings such as the final review meeting where we meet with our stakeholders and we talk about lessons learned. Some of our outputs for the closed project are final product, service, or result transition acceptance. And this really is where we deal with the turnover to the organization. It's basically the final sign-off of the project. Now, I'm sure everybody's had a project where you get the stakeholders in the room and there's questions about why certain things were added. And typically this happens when stakeholders come in the very beginning during planning. They miss a bunch of meetings in the middle, and then they show up at the closeout meeting thinking they're going to get everything they wanted. That's why it's extremely important for the stakeholders to be constantly engaged throughout the process of the project. Some of the other things that happen are when you close out the project, it starts the warranty period. So if you have anything that's being turned over, as soon as you sign off on a part or a service, a lot of times vendors will give you a specific warranty period, like a 90-day or 120-day, where there's a warranty just in case the product is not delivering to meet your needs. And then this is also the point where we collect and archive project records. So scope statements, change records, issue logs, closure documents are all managed and maintained here as an output. Another knowledge area is when you are actually closing the procurements. So this actually supports the closed project process. It deals with product verification, and you have to update your records and archive. Your inputs for closing the procurements, and the procurements are any dollars that are going to an external vendor, are your project management plan and your procurement documentation, because that really says what did you plan to spend and what vendors did you work with, how much did you agree that you were going to pay them, what was the schedule going to be like, and what type of quality acceptance do you have, if you have any quality acceptance standards. Some of the tools and techniques are a big one is the procurement audit. We want to make sure that what we said we were going to pay is what we actually paid, and we didn't overpay or underpay. And if we underpaid, was there a change that basically stated we're going to underpay because of this rationale? And then some of the outputs are the actual closed procurement. These documents are where you have your formal acceptance and closure documents. Very important, you do not want to close out your work order before the vendors have all been paid. It's very important that the project manager works with the vendors to ensure that all of the receipts have been paid, all of the work that's been completed has been paid prior to closing out the actual work order. And then my favorite part, we should always celebrate our successes. So this is where we talk to the project team members and we say what they did great. Especially if you have an outstanding team member, it's really important to recognize that just by saying thank you and maybe a small thing, they'll want to be on your team again, and you're going to want them as project managers. You're going to want those star personnel on your team. And then also releasing the team. We need to make sure that we have a plan where the team is released back to the organization or back to the project organization based on how the project team is set up. So that concludes my demo. Again, I am very interested in teaching the project management classes as long as some of the IT classes for the MS program. Thanks and have a great day.